Hi, this is Mark Ryan, and I'm back experimenting with anti-gravity using it to test code labs. So in the last video, we went through this code lab. That is anti-gravity. Went through it. I sort of provided the URL and I went through all the steps in this code lab, went through each of the tabs here, up to and including preparing this test step. And then in the last video, we started up Gemini CLI and we're able to get the expected answer for the question, where can I find penguins, using the MCP server that had been set up earlier in the code lab, validating all the steps had been done. There is a related code lab, and this one uses the Agent Development Kit, the ADK. It also has the previous code lab as a prerequisite. So what we're going to do is get Antigravity to go through this second code lab. And we have it set up here, experiment number 3. We are specifying, we go into a little bit more detail about the prompt this time. So the prompt has the URL of the code lab. We're also going to specify the step where we want anti-gravity to stop. That is, the code lab includes some cleanup steps at the end. I don't want it to go ahead and do the cleanup. I want it to stop before the cleanup so we can take a good look at the results and check everything's okay. Now, something that I neglected to show in the last video was the details about using Cloud Shell. And this is one of the lessons learned in earlier experiments on the previous code lab. It's important to specify that the execution is done in Cloud Shell. By default, Antigravity tried to do these actions in my local system, and the code lab expects them to be done in Cloud Shell. So I specified here to use Cloud Shell, and the details are in this part of the prompt. So the setup is all in place. So all I should have to do is copy and paste this prompt and let it go. It's gone ahead and opened up the code lab in its browser. The blue border indicates that it is in control. So one of the great things about anti-gravity is that you can switch back and forth between anti-gravity controlling actions in the browser and you controlling them yourself. Here we can see anti-gravity iterating through the tabs of the code lab. Now anti-gravity is deep into the steps of executing this code lab. We can see that the new deployment is happening in Cloud Run. It's in progress right now. And Antigravity has come back to say the deployment is completed for the Zoo Tour Guide agent and shared the URL. So if we go over and take a look, the deployment is complete. And now let's see about testing the deployed agent. So we can confirm this. So we've opened the URL for the service in the browser, and let's just check and see what the recommended item is. So just try hello. So ran into a problem actually getting results, getting responses back in the environment here in the UI. So regardless of what I type in, not getting any responses back. So I actually checked with Gemini and it recommended to take a look at the .env file and look in there. It does in fact look like the an error was made here. So what we're going to do is update that file. We need to do a little bit of debugging because there was an issue at the end and it boiled down to the value from model here having a corrupted value. So we managed to narrow down the problem, edit and redeploy. And after doing that, if we take the URL for the deployed service, paste it here, tap this over to token streaming, And there we get the result that we wanted. So now let's take another question that's suggested here in testing the deployed agent. And here we go. We get another response. And so here we've seen another example of being able to use anti-gravity to validate. In fact, this is a code lab built upon another code lab. So anti-gravity was able to validate the initial code lab, run through it from beginning to end. And for the second one, it did run into one issue, but that was relatively easy to debug. And now we have a working validation of the outcome of the second code lab and shows that anti-gravity is capable of taking a relatively complex piece of documentation, working through the steps, and producing the desired result.